to Engaging with Generation Alpha, Competing with Screens, from a webinar held on March the 23rd, hosted by Boarding Training Australia. We initiated this webinar because boarding staff were letting us know that they are concerned. Students are spending much too much time alone in rooms. Students are not engaging with other students or the residence program, and boarding staff are finding it increasingly difficult to engage with students. And we realise that our past practice is not necessarily going to work. We need new strategies and new ideas. So we looked at the research, and particularly looked at meta-research. This is research of different other research projects, and this showed links between increased screen time and school refusal, that is, refusing to go to school at all, or when you are at school, refusing to go into a classroom. Links between screen time and anxiety and depression, higher rates of obsessive compulsive disorder, and this was enabled to a certain extent by YouTube. Research from the meta-studies showed links between increased screen time and emotional dysregulation or decreased self-control, and this is like uncontrolled outbursts from young people, emotional outbursts. It also showed links with greater levels of behaviour problems. There were also links with hyperactivity, inattention problems, low self-esteem, difficulties with sleep, and other health and fitness issues. In 2021, a study led by University of Queensland Associate Professor Asad Khan looked at data from more than 577,000 adolescents aged 13 to 15 years across 42 high-income countries. It's a huge number of young people, and multiple universities were involved in this, but it was led by University of Queensland. Researchers linked harmful effects on adolescents' mental health to screen time exceeding 2 hours a day for girls and 4 hours a day for boys. And that's very interesting, and sometime we probably need to look at that closer and maybe unpack why that actually came about. They said that we found there were some benefits during the first hour of daily screen use, but detrimental effects of recreational screen use on mental well-being kick in after 75 minutes in girls and 105 minutes in boys, Dr. Khan said. Excess screen time can affect depression, obesity, poor quality of life, unhealthy diet, decreased physical and cognitive abilities. And there were other obvious effects, and it'd be interesting to hear your experience. And people in the webinar came up with these. Carolyn came up with social isolation, Anita, disengagement from the real world, Zane, re-education in social skills, and we heard this from other people as well, that young people lacked social skills and actually had to be trained, loss of academic production, bullying behaviours, reluctancy. And Carolyn said this is a great boon for the clothing industry because you can't possibly be seen in the same outfit more than once, and it's true. And Catherine, an inability to make decisions without the support of technology. This week we looked at 3 reasons why screen time affects mental health. This came from a Greater Good magazine article written by Christine Carter. So we want to have a look at these 3 reasons. Number 1 is more screen time means more time alone, which is probably a bit of a no-brainer. Young people appear to be very well connected, and we know they are, but research indicates that more young people now feel left out and lonely. This is because young people have the ability to see what everyone else is doing at any given moment, so they know what they're being left out of. Every party or event plays out on TikTok, Instagram and Snapchat, and all the young people in attendance document in great detail who was there and what they did, and the young people who didn't get to go see this and they realise what they've missed out on. It's that FOMO, that fear of missing out. The more time young people spend on devices, the less time they spend interacting with their peers or adults in face-to-face encounters. Today's young people feel lonely because they actually are alone more. The number of young people who get together with their friends every day has been cut in half in just 15 years, with especially steep declines recently. Over the course of a week, they see their friends an hour less a day than their parents' generation did, or than the early millennials did. Loneliness and social isolation cause profound distress. Feeling lonely causes your cortisol, a stress hormone, to skyrocket. Feeling acutely lonely is as stressful as experiencing a physical attack. Loneliness is not merely the result of depression, but it can also lead to depression. Lonely people are also more likely to be vulnerable to negative treatment, including bullying. Number 2, social media and materialism go hand in hand, and I found this interesting. Students entering university today are more likely than ever before to say it's important to them to be wealthy, and it's less important to value intrinsic goals like finding meaning. Heavy users of social media are far more likely to want material things like new cars, holiday homes, and they believe that these things are important for their lives, important for their well-being, for their happiness. Social media, and media in general, lets young people peer into the lives of the rich and famous. Celebrity YouTubers display in great detail what to covet, and young people are being taught values more explicitly than in the past, than they were taught by parents or society or church or the school. They're being taught values by these celebrity YouTubers, by social media. Some celebrities are being paid by advertisers, and actual advertising actively and successfully cultivates materialism in young people. The more materialistic people are, the more they think about acquiring wealth or stuff or fame, the more unhappy and depressed and anxious they will be. Spending a lot of time on smartphones predicts and likely increases materialism in young people. When young people lose or fail to develop a meaningful set of values, they can easily become anxious, depressed, and lonely. Part 3. Social media invites insecurity and comparison. Social media allows young people unconsciously to compare themselves to others, and they rarely come out ahead. They open Snapchat or some other forum, and they learn from the curated, which is a carefully selected, organised and presented, not the real stories, that the people who count have money and they are beautiful. They're celebrities. On Instagram, it's filled with Photoshop selfies taken painstakingly from an angle that makes somebody look their thinnest. And it can easily make even a secure and self-confident young person feel that their normal body just does not measure up. Ultra-wealthy young people and young celebrities who on some level seem like peers, and can you see how this is a problem? They seem like peers, but they're not peers. Not everybody has this huge amount of wealth. But they post selfies that displays their wealth while flying around the world in their family jets, etc. If young people were seeing people like themselves, or worse off than themselves, then they wouldn't feel so insecure. But they're seeing people who are thinner, richer, more popular, more successful, and more privileged. Having a reduced sense of our own social status gnaws at our nervous system. Feeling low in social status or feeling you don't have the respect of others is a core cause of depression. Worse than having a low social status is feeling like your status is insecure or your status is being threatened, like you might be losing social status. The antidote, of course, is real-life social connection. The best predictor of a person's happiness and well-being is the opposite of loneliness, materialism, and insecurity. It's having a large breadth and depth of real-life social connections. So how can we engage with this new generation, alpha generation? How can we manage the use of devices and social media? Interestingly, in the news last week, New South Wales Labor proposed to have a prison-type phone blocker in schools to stop young people accessing their phones in schools. These blockers are illegal in Australia, but some organisations have exemptions. For example, jails have exemptions. And so that's their idea. In South Australia, they've been working on banning phones or the use of phones in schools, and they have these Yonder pouches. and you've probably seen on social media all the different ways you can bypass these yonder pouches. So what's the alternative? The alternative is working with young people to develop healthy practice around screens and about being online. Last week we put out an email about the acceptable use of technology agreements, and these agreements and how to use these agreements are on our website, and you can download them off the website. A lot of schools already have these agreements in place, but it's interesting that about 2 hours after that email went out, it was downloaded almost 400 times. So there's a lot of interest out there in the acceptable use of technology agreements. And the purpose of these agreements is to promote the responsible and safe use of technology while also protecting the privacy and safety of students. So what strategies are you using? We asked a couple of people to share with us. Carolyn from Pymble, the head of boarding from Pymble, had a holistic approach to how they deal with screens and young people using screens. That is, she recognises that one thing is not going to deal with it, it's going to be a whole lot of things together. And it was things like providing alternatives, a busy program of activities for girls to stay away from screen, hand-in times, working towards independence around this, but still having hand-in times initially, the Love It activity program, creating a good physical environment with outdoor activities, common rooms being inviting spaces, streaming services on TVs, encouraging young people to watch TV together, and police activities officer visit. A police officer come and talk about cyber safety issues. Carolyn said it's difficult to work out a policy on Apple Watches, and other people agreed with this, plus also Nintendo Switches. These need to be added to the checklist of items to hand in. Carolyn said they can turn off Bluetooth if young people are not using it responsibly. One of the issues is that when they take students on outings, they want them to take their phones in case they get lost or for safety reasons, but then it's a constant battle of put your phone away. Renee, head of boarding from Wilderness, also had a holistic approach to this. Part of this was attractive communal spaces and providing snacks for groups of more than 2 who get together to do anything. So young people can come to the head of boarding and say, we're going to get together and do this, and then they'll be provided snacks for that occasion. Phone management, strict hand-in policy for all years, but Year 12s are negotiating with boarding management. Year 12s are negotiating to keep their phones, and they state there's an argument for the development of trust and independence, which is a mature approach to it. Renee did research at a field day with other boarding schools to discuss their phone policies and came up with the same sorts of ideas and reasons, etc. Phones in prep and study are managed not by policing but by trust and conversations. That's interesting, isn't it? And by an individual approach, each girl deciding if they can self-manage or do they need to hand their phone in. And plus, added to this is feedback from parents, regular check-ins, dinner time conversations, which are an important part of residential living. Girls are learning the art of conversation. So we fill the gap with fun quizzes or icebreakers at dinner. Each table talks together. And then the Spirit House circles, training the older students to lead these group discussions each week. So that was from Renee at Wilderness. Zane from Ross Trevor commented that older boys hand in burner phones and keep their real phones, and I think most of us in boarding have had this experience where some students seem to have multiple phones and we're not exactly sure which is the right one, but there are ways of dealing with that, of course. Zane made this comment which was interesting. He said tech during COVID was very handy, was very useful. We just need to find a way to incorporate this into boarding, and that was a good approach to it. They also had a group gaming competition, and he said it was a lovely night. Catherine mentioned about spot checking phones. Those who hand in fakes will lose their phone for a week, and we know other organisations that do that as well. So that was the webinar from March the 23rd. Thank you all those who joined in. Thank you very much to those people who contributed. This is a continuing discussion as we all learn new ways to engage with this generation of young people. Thank you very much.